All right. Yo, welcome back. You're listening to the City of Savages podcast, and I'm your host, Cam.
And this is Greg.
Appreciate y'all coming back and joining it with us. We got a special guest today, Timicia Grant. Timicia, appreciate you joining us.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
For sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, everyone, Timicia, very special guest today. She is a political operative and a community activist. She's very active on the streets, very active in campaigns, been doing a lot. She's currently the regional director for John Ossoff, running for the United States Senate in Georgia. And she formerly worked on Jamie Harris's campaign and now Vice President-elect Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. So she's been doing a lot. She's also a passionate advocate for women and for children and family rights. And she's the public policy chair at the Greenville chapter of the National Council of Negro Women, along with multiple other services and leadership roles in her community. So, Timicia, we are super excited to have you on today, and I just thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Facts. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get right into it. So, the big question is, let's just start from where you're at right now. How did you get to where you are now? And kind of give us the backstory. Where'd you come from? And how did you get here?
So, yeah. So my story basically started in 2016 when I was out actively just trying to figure out how I could give back to my community. I was just kind of getting in wherever I fit in. If somebody needed some service of some sort, if there was some community event, I would go and I would volunteer, and I would volunteer all the time. And so I would run into a lot of elected officials and people that do this work. And one day I was actually at the Women's March in 2017, and somebody spotted me and they were like, "We see you everywhere." And I'm just like, well, I'm just trying to, give back to my community. It's fine. Like, I wasn't really thinking like, how can I make moves? I was trying to figure out how can I serve my community better.
Right.
And so that was really kind of how it started. And they were like, "You should apply to work for Kamala Harris." And I loved her, but I was just like, I don't have any political experience. Like, why would she hire me, right?
Yeah.
He was like, "I'm going to invite you to this private fundraiser, and she's going to be there, and I want you to talk to her." And so I was like, how you like get an opportunity or you like approach about something and you feel like you're ready, but you still like doubting yourself. And
still kind of hesitant.
I was sitting there like, I don't know what I'm going to say to her if I actually do get to talk to her, because obviously everybody's going to want to talk to her. And at the time I was serving with the Urban League, and I just basically kind of went up to her and shook her hand and said, "My name is Timicia, and I, volunteer at the Urban League." And like, I was nervous the whole time, but she like looked me dead in my face and she was like, "Okay, give your resume to my assistant." And that was like the dopest experience ever, because like I didn't let fear overcome me. And so like, it's been on ever since.
That's super dope. Yeah. Shout out to the Urban League as well.
Sure.
And knowing that you kind of work with Kamala Harris, and I know that I'm sure you hated when she dropped out of the race and it was seemingly over. How did it feel when you found out that she could be and will be president, vice president elect?
It definitely felt like affirming, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes when you like rocking with something like a dream or a person or a thought or idea, and like nobody's feeling you, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like people will be like, I kind of see what you're saying, but like nobody really saw like the potential. Like I had people that I would talk to all the time be like she's dope, but I don't think she can be president because we're not ready for a female president. We're not ready for a black president,
right?
Another black president rather. And it was just really affirming, man. It was like one of the best feelings in the world. Like I, got out my house and I like ran around screaming and dancing because I was just so excited for her, mainly because I've always really believed that she could do that. I believed that she could be in the White House from day one. I knew
Yeah.
that she was amazing. So it was a really good feeling for sure.
Okay. So, you mentioned that, some people thought that she couldn't be president. And, obviously Kamala's got like a certain rap amongst a
For
certain
sure.
crowd or certain people in the Black community.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think about that? And what's your thoughts on it? What's your rebuttal to that, when people
And
talk about that stuff with you?
it's crazy because it was really hard to get especially like younger people on board with Kamala at first
Hmm.
because there was a lot of misinformation about her.
Right.
Like I was so like I was one of those that was like, okay, I'm not gonna do anything until I do research on this person. Like I'm a big like I don't want to not have receipts
Yeah.
for whatever I'm trying to promote or support. Like I have to have receipts. So I started doing like deep diving and I figured out that a lot of the stuff that people talked about or like the talking points were either straight out untrue
Hmm.
or they were like overstated basically.
Yeah.
And so, especially with, people my own age, I really just had to like be open to like the criticism, but like then be like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Or hey, I have, this, evidence that she was, for the people and everything like that. So sometimes it can get like difficult, like, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like when you're like trying to convince someone of something that either they're skeptical of or they've never seen.
Yeah.
And so people was just kind of like, in our generation than like older, like they were just like, I'm cool on her, right? Because of
Yeah.
the criminal record and all of that. But that was one of the things that forced me to really do a lot of research. So I spent a lot of nights like really deep diving into her record and, from very beginning, like when she
Hmm.
was a DA, because I wanted to be able to like confidently say like, here's why I support this person, here's why you should support this person, and here's why she's capable of doing the job. Because I think that was a big part of it is that after 4 years of what we had, it's been hard to like let people know like that's not the standard
Yeah.
so many ways, and she challenges everybody that's on her team to be as excellent as she is. And so that was one of the things that I really took away from that is like
Hmm.
I was allowed to grow and be pushed, and so I was out there like pushing other people.
Yeah.
Like I was like, so let me ask you why you feel that way. Let me ask you, this or that.
That's good.
So it was definitely a learning experience for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, no, that's good. That I think one of the biggest things or one of the biggest issue that we have, especially in our community, is like we often are looking for the what's wrong. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not we're not doing our research to try
Yeah,
to find out what we like about a person. We're trying to figure out what we dislike about a person, right? So when it comes to trying to pick who you want to vote for, who you want to support, how can you ever
yeah,
figure that out if you're looking for the negatives in somebody, right? Because you're always going to be able to find something negative that you can put your thumb on and say,
for sure.
look, I ain't rocking with that. I don't like that about this person. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely can appreciate you doing your research and figuring out. So, what was some of the what was some of the big things that you liked about Kamala Harris, her campaign, and the things that she did or were for? What were some of those key points for you that drew you to her?
Well, I mean, for her to be as young as she is, she's
Right.
accomplished a great deal. She was able to really make some major changes to the I think she was the San
Mhm.
Francisco DA. So like basically she created like recidivism programs where like basically if you had like a smaller charge, like she would like throw the
Mhm.
whole charge out and like allow you to do community service, have your record expunged, and then she'll also give you like career path training and stuff
Right.
like that. And at the time it was not well
Okay.
received. People did not like that. They felt like that was a waste of tax dollars. They felt like that wasn't what she was supposed to be doing. And so, like when I like got on her campaign, first of all, I'm a black woman, so I'm not gonna sit here in front like the idea of a black woman being the president of the United States was
Of
not
course. Yeah.
appealing to me from a representation point of view. But yeah, like she's just really excellent. Like I was saying, like she pushes her, like when I was a part of her campaign, like
Hmm.
she's very sharp, she's like compassionate too, but like she keeps you like, could you have done that better?
Okay.
How could you have done that better? Let's go back to the drawing board and make
Yeah.
sure that you do that better, as opposed to like criticizing without solution. Like it was always like solution based. How can we make this better? And that was amazing to like experience, because sometimes you go into stuff and you know you proud and you excited, but like you really don't know what
Right.
you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And so like you know you want to do something, but you still like you have to be in learning mode all the time. You have to be like a
Sure.
continuous learner. So that was something that I really took away from her campaign, and learning more about her is just like really be a
Yeah.
continuous learner and like
Yeah.
continue to push yourself, and challenge yourself
Okay.
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's dope. I definitely get that. And so she was your first like political job working on her campaign, right? So that's pretty big. You know, you
Yes,
went straight to the
yes.
big leagues pretty much.
I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely a way to get your feet wet,
Yeah.
is just, go for the top. But, I didn't
Yeah.
know that at the time. I was just like hopeful that we could really pull it off, because I just thought
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
so amazing.
But I guess now you're kind of in the crowd now, right? You're like one of those people.
Yeah. I mean, I
Mhm.
wouldn't say I'm in the crowd. I think this work. First of all, I'm very big advocate for young African American people becoming politically
Mhm.
involved and engaged, because one, it matters so much to our future. It matters so much to the decisions that we can make, the type of
Yeah.
money we can make. If you're a business owner, the type of like business loans
Mhm.
you can apply for, things that are not equitable for people of color. You can change that by
Yeah.
changing who's in office. So that was a big part of it, was like, I want to continue to put myself out there until I see the
Yeah.
changes that I want. You know what I mean? I can't just sit back and be chill, and believe it or not, there's just still
Mhm.
not enough of us out there. So um, once you start doing this work, you
Yeah.
kind of get the bug. And I definitely caught the bug, and really wanted to work, in
Right.
my state first, working with Jamie. Unfortunately, we didn't pull out a win in that situation. However, we
Oh
still
yeah.
made history in a great deal of many ways, and so now we're right here at the cusp. We have Joe Biden
Mhm.
as the president-elect, Kamala Harris as the vice president-elect, but for those who know a little bit like about politics, like if they
Mhm.
can't get the Senate to be democratic, it makes
Yeah.
everything they're doing so much harder. So I was really tired after Jamie's race. It was a
Oh
long
yeah.
stretch. And somebody called me like, "Do you want to work for John?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
gotta do it. I gotta put
Yeah.
my best foot forward, like, and really make that change, because
Oh yeah.
I'm a mom. So like it's not just about me, it's about making sure that my
Yeah.
son is straight, making sure that his generation doesn't have to pay for me sitting at home, or me not doing everything I could to make sure that his life is
Yeah. The
better.
job
So
is never done, right? Yeah.
never ever, man.
So
Never
so
ever.
when it came to you getting on Jamie Harris campaign, did was that a call? Did somebody hit you up and like, hey, we need you on Jamie Harris's campaign too, or did you kind of seek him out?
So the funny thing is, after Kamala dropped out, of
Mm-hmm.
course, I was devastated. Took all the
Yeah.
wind out of my sails, all that good stuff. But I was like, okay, I had to regroup, and I was like, how do I serve? What is the next way that I serve? I was like, well, you have this. I had met Jamie at an event
Mm-hmm.
like a year before, and heard him talk, and he was basically talking about how he wanted to like make sure that his campaign had an impact on everyone
Mm-hmm.
by being of service. And in all the years that
Yeah.
that's my number one. Like I have to be of service to the community. So I was like, dope. Like whenever he's like ready, like I want to work for him. That was a year ago. And so like I kind of like spoke that into existence. So when I left the Kamala campaign, everybody kept
Mm-hmm.
asking me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What are you going to do next? And I was like, I want to work for Jamie Harrison. And it was like, okay, because the presidential
Yeah.
campaign was still going on. So, they were like, you don't want to work for, this Warren, you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to work for like Joe Biden, who do you, and I was like, nah, I want to work in my
Yeah.
state. I want to make my state better. And, when, same situation where you got to kind of get over your jitters, and I went up to his political director, and I said, I want to work for y'all. I want to work for Jamie, and here's why
Mm.
I'm qualified to do so. And I had a little more
Yeah, yeah.
swagger, I had a little more confidence, after Kamala. And so she was like, oh, okay, okay. And a lot of people at that
Hmm.
time wanted to work on that race, and like was applying and stuff. I was like, I don't know, I don't know. And I was like, no, you have to. I have
Yeah.
confidence. Like, I'm going to get this. I am going to get this
Mm.
job no matter what. And so the crazy thing is, like, I wound up being one of the first people in my
Okay.
department to be hired. And like
All right.
Jamie hired me as opposed to
Yeah.
like other people. Like, I sat on the phone with him and he was like, I really, need people that are passionate. I was like, trust me, I'm going to
Hmm.
try my very best. I'm going to give it all. I'm going to put it all on the field. And that was a really like crazy moment, but it was humbling because I realized like the things that I'm doing not only are improving the lives of others, but it's also improving my life. And that was something that was really like
Yeah. Yeah.
dope to feel for
Yeah. That
sure.
what you all did on Jamie Harris's campaign was crazy dope because the thing about it is I met Jamie. I actually went to the Democratic convention when they had it here in Columbia, and I met Jamie there when nobody really knew who he was. And
Right.
I talked to him, and he's like, yeah, he was out in the hallway, and he didn't have no big following. It was just like him and I guess his wife and like a few other people. And he was like, yeah, I'm running against Lindsey Graham. We need to take this seat, bring it to the Democrats, XYZ. And I was like, I liked him. So I was like, no matter what, at the time I wasn't super confident, to be quite honest with you. I'm like, that's going to be that's a big task because, although
Hmm.
many of us probably don't rock with Lindsey like that in South Carolina, a lot of people rock with him. Right. So, um,
Hmm.
in a conservative state like we are, they going for him. So anyway, I was like,
Right.
you got my vote regardless. I got you. So fast forward like 3-4
Right.
months later, I just saw like how he grew exponentially, and then he started getting support from like Sean King and a whole bunch of other people. And it was just like, he blew
Hmm.
up like real quick. So that campaign was just crazy, and I think y'all did a lot of great things. So I was disappointed that he didn't pull it off, but I'm still super impressed and just proud of what y'all
Yeah.
did and him
Yeah.
on that campaign. It was definitely a good thing for a
Thank you.
state.
Thank you.
So with that being said, you've now done a couple campaigns here in the state. Now you're working for a campaign in Georgia. Are you intending to come back
Hmm.
to the state, South Carolina? What's your next move? Are
Of
you
course.
going other places? You want to try to work for Kamala again? What you trying to
Yeah. Oh man, that is such a cool
do?
question when people ask me that. I would love to have worked for the administration if
Mhm.
I wasn't a mommy. Mommy
Yeah.
life is real, and mommy life within this industry is so it's challenging because your peers don't may not understand like the things that come
Mhm.
with you showing up, right? There's so much more to me showing up than some of my coworkers, and you have to have that passion and that grind. So I got elected to be the second vice president of the Greenville Democratic Women. So I'm very involved
Okay.
in the Greenville Democratic Party. Um, my goal is to kind of be able to be that boots in the ground, similar to what Stacey
Hmm.
Abrams has been able to create in Georgia. We need to
Yeah.
register tons of people. We need to be, connecting with people. So that's what the future looks like for me. That's what it looks like is continuing that
Mm.
grind. That grind don't stop. Like, if you really want the results of what happened in Georgia,
Oh yeah.
that takes a lot of work, and you have to be able to do the work. So I'm just, trying
Okay.
to show up and do the
I
work.
definitely get that. So I mean, you mentioned that this work is hard being a mommy. So and I know it is because I mean
Hmm.
you guys are working late. calling people, sending text messages out,
Yep.
doing events late at night, all this stuff happening, after hours for the
Yeah.
most part, right? So
Hmm.
how are you finding the time to do it? You got a strong support system around you. How's that working for you?
Hmm. Just not being afraid
Okay.
to ask for help, honestly. Um, especially if you're doing good,
Yeah.
people want to support what you're doing. And you kind of have to figure out because your help may not always come from where you thought it was going to come from. There are people in my life that I did not
Mm,
get support from, that would might have been expected. But there were all these people, like I said, the Kamala campaign, it was life changing in so many ways, but people love her. And so, like, there was like all these bands of women
mm,
who were like, "What do you need? How can I help?" And that was like overwhelming and a
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful thing. And so that's kind of where I got my support system from during those times. And also I recently
Oh
pledged to
yeah.
become a Row
Well,
Incorporated, and my sorors were my family, and
okay.
they helped out a lot too. So like you have to just kind of figure out, like, not being too prideful to say, man, like, I really want to accomplish this. So how can I get this accomplished? Because sometimes pride can really get in your way when you're like a parent and you're trying to do a lot of different things. So you have to learn how to ask for help and really
Yeah.
just be organized, man. Like, you can't be slack, you can't be
Yeah.
lazy. Everything will fall apart. Like, if you don't get everything right,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
nothing is getting
Definitely.
done.
Man, that's
Period.
that's so awesome to hear that, your sorors and your campaign folks and just everybody around you just showing that love and helping you out and supporting you there. So I know that's,
Hmm.
you're especially in your line of work, that's super needed. So that's great to hear. Um, yeah, definitely,
It's
definitely.
crucial.
And I know you have it's a added hurdle for you, because you mentioned in your bio that your child's special needs, right? So I know that's an
Hmm.
additional thing for you. But with that being said, you
Yeah.
also mentioned that you're advocate for families and kids and things, right? So
Yeah.
did that impact you? Just your son being special needs, that impact you on wanting to help out other families, and what kind of things are you doing to be an advocate for others?
Absolutely. So I recently worked with Women's Rights Empowerment Network, to kind of advocate for, like, childcare workers and advocate for more childcare, because I don't know if you know this, but South Carolina is kind
Mm,
of like a childcare desert. Basically, and talking in terms of professional care facilities for children, there's just not enough of them per square mileage for the
mm,
amount of children that there is in South Carolina. So a lot of people go without childcare in a
right.
official capacity, right? Um, and they're not, and then the, like, based on like home based, ones, they kind of completely
Hmm.
got wiped out during COVID. um I really try to, I used to, work for a
Yeah.
nonprofit called Single Parents in Need. There are, a lot of single parents, both men and women, but a lot of times it's the women that wind up
Hmm.
bearing the brunt of a lot of that, trying to get their lives back on the track, trying to take care of their kids, and they don't have any support. So we was like providing meals for them, providing meals for their kids, make sure that they had coats for the winter. Because when you see people trying, like, you have to support them. And I feel like our government and our laws, especially in the Southeast, like, do not, they don't do enough for families. And so for me, I'm just really passionate about changing the laws in this country so that people, parents don't have to feel like, especially single parents, don't have to feel like a permanent, like,
Right.
underclass, like, while they're trying. During this holiday season, I've been to two stores. I was getting something for Thanksgiving, and the young lady had
Mm.
her son with her
Oh wow.
behind the counter
Oh wow.
because she
Wow.
didn't have no childcare. Yeah. And then I went to a restaurant, and another young lady had her baby behind the bar
Wow.
because she don't have no
Dang.
childcare. I'm like,
Yeah.
come on. Like, that to me is crazy because they
Yeah.
working. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
They're not out in the clubs. They're not doing nothing. They
Right.
trying to make a living, and they don't have what they need. And I feel like
Yeah.
that should never happen in any, advanced country. There should never be any time that people can't pay their
Yeah.
bills
Right.
and take care of
Right.
their kids, like, and have to choose between the two. So, every time that I see stuff like that, I'm like, okay, I'm out there trying to figure out where can I advocate for legislation. How can I get in my community and raise some money for these
Mhm.
nonprofits that help these people, so that nobody, I don't come from no sweet,
Mhm.
background. Like, it's been tough for sure, and I've been blessed, but it's been tough. And so I know what I went through, and I don't ever want any other woman or parent to go through that. So anywhere and anytime that I can, like, really push for the conversation to be around parenting and women and families, and like, how can we make sure they're stable so they can be successful. It ain't about helping them, it's about making sure that they're successful so that they can continue to
Yeah.
thrive and their
Yeah,
children can
definitely.
thrive. So yeah.
We often hear about food deserts, but I've never heard that term, child care desert, but I definitely get it, and that's one I think
Mhm.
that's easily seen here for two reasons, right? So for one, to find any kind of decent help child care facility in South Carolina, at least, I mean, you probably gonna be on the waiting list to get your child in there.
Yep.
Oh
And
wow.
it's gonna be crazy
Yeah.
expensive. I guess supply and demand, right? So you plan, I mean, hell, I live in Greenville. Most places was like 180 to 200 a week. So a lot of families can't
Hmm.
afford that. And then another big thing with childcare, right, is that most childcare places they close at 6 o'clock or 6:30, and
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
that works for a certain class of people, right? So for the middle class and upper middle class, they're mostly working morning, midday shifts. So they're off work by 5, 6 o'clock. They that works for them. But some of the people that work in other jobs, like you said, they're working in stores and they're working behind bars and they're working at these plants and things like that. They don't have an
Hmm.
option for childcare outside of family or other type of support. So there's nothing that can help them out.
Right.
So
And
that's a tough
to
thing.
that point, Cam, like those are people that we need. We're talking about essential workers too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So
Thank
like
you.
let's just put that out
That
there.
part.
These are
Yeah,
essential workers that we're referring
No,
to
like,
that we need to be taken care of the
that
most.
yeah,
part.
yeah.
So
Facts.
it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I mean, who can work
Right.
without childcare, right? Like, if there's no one to watch
Can't
the
work.
children,
Yeah,
you
Right.
can't work. I'm super blessed that I can work from home, because
yeah.
what would I have done if I could? That I think about those people all the time. When I used to work with,
Hmm.
McDonald's and wait tables, and you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, you
yeah.
Right.
gotta work. Period. Wherever the baby has to be, you gotta get them there so that you can work. So, yeah, I definitely think that childcare workers should be
Oh yeah,
considered
for sure,
essential
for
for
sure.
sure.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you recently joined sorority Sigma Gamma Rho. So me and Greg, we both newts.
Yes.
So
Shout
we
out
know
to
the
our
ropes.
sorority sister.
Shout out, shout
Yeah,
out to the
man.
Rose.
What's
What's
going
up,
on? What's
Izzy?
going on?
But what made you go that route? What made you pick Sigma Gamma Rho?
Wow. So many reasons. First of all, I come from a long
Mm.
line of educators. My mother's a teacher, my grandmother's a teacher, my great grandmother's a teacher. Like, everybody in my family values education. Um, and that was something that they were all educators. And so
Right,
that was a big, big thing for me. As well as, like, the women of Eta Sigma Sigma, my chapter, were always just really, like, welcoming, and, like, when you see it from the outside, there's a lot of people who are
yeah.
non-Greek who just don't understand it, and they don't see the
Mhm.
value, or they're intimidated, right? They don't understand at all, so they, like, stand out. And they were always just, like, so welcoming, and I thought that was amazing. I love the diversity of my sorority, and I love the fact that there's ways to get involved in my sorority even if you don't have a 4-year degree. I appreciate that as well. Um, and I had just really made the decision, that I was going to, like, not only invest in my community, but, like, invest in myself. by like having that sisterhood. And so it was an easy
Okay.
like decision after that. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, yeah,
Okay.
that's where I
That's
belong.
dope.
So
Yeah.
it's
That's
been
super dope. Super
easy.
dope. All right, good deal. So, I know early you said, hey, South Carolina, that's your home. So you gonna be staying here. You don't have aspirations to go anywhere else anytime.
Yeah, no. That's been a funny question. So I am a long
Mhm.
like South Carolina
Right.
resident, but I'm
Okay.
originally from Brooklyn, New York. I was raised in Brooklyn until I was 12 years old. So Brooklyn really shaped me, even
Hmm.
though the
Yeah.
South is what raised me, right? And I have a lot of family and friends who ask that question constantly, especially since I like started doing politics. They're like, "Are you gonna move to DC? Are you gonna move to DC?" Like politics exists in other places other than DC.
Yeah.
There's a need everywhere, and the one thing that I will say is like being a parent, like I I like living in a place
Yeah.
where I feel like my
Right.
son can
Right.
thrive. I feel like the educational system in like some northeastern
Hmm.
places may be a little bit more advanced, but you pay with a lot of other
Hmm.
types of challenges, right? And I feel like for myself, and I'm how do I put this? The one thing about living in the South and being like really like strong like civil rights and wanting to advocate for the community and all of that is you get a lot of people that kind of cycle in and out and they get burnt out because they
Yeah.
just don't feel like they belong. And I always think of the people
Mm.
that would
Right.
get left
Right.
behind. So like
Yeah.
the people who can't move
Yeah.
out, you know what I'm saying? They can't leave the state. They have to live
Yeah.
here. Like who's fighting for them? You know what I mean? So that's why I'm
Okay.
like, I'm not going
Yeah.
nowhere. Keep your eye out because got some real special things
All
that
right.
I'm working on in the next few years. But I definitely want to create an environment where people feel like
Yeah.
they can stay here
Okay.
and live here and thrive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Definitely. No,
what's
I definitely
important to me.
understand that. You all about service through and through. So I can definitely appreciate that. Yeah.
For
I think
sure.
even when I met you, like 3-4 years ago now, you were doing service, not politics, but you were doing service work, right? What were you doing back then?
Mhm. So I think when I met you, I was doing the Urban League and like
Okay.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
Chamber of Commerce. I was like volunteering with them, and I worked for a nonprofit, so we want to kind of keep our visibility and stuff like that. But I was definitely more
Yeah.
like how can I help my
Okay.
people for real, for real? Because you get into certain
Mm,
spaces and you don't see
that's
yourself
true.
reflected back, and you're like, no, no,
Oh
no,
yeah,
like
for
we
sure.
all need to be
So,
here.
you said you got some things coming up in a few
Mhm.
years. Are you thinking about starting your own nonprofit, or along what lines are we talking here? What
You
what
gotta
could
get
Um,
gotta give us a glimpse.
yeah.
So yeah. So just to give you like
Mhm.
a little bit of a rundown. Um, bye. No. I gotta go. Hold on one
That's
second.
Hey,
love.
how you
Hi.
doing?
Hi. Okay. Bye. Um, so I have gotten a lot of training about what it looks like to be
Mhm.
an elected official, and it's really more complex
Yeah.
and nuanced than some people realize. And so I really kind of dug deep, and then all of a sudden. Like around 2018, when we had that big influx of like women of all diversity and cultures, everybody was like,
Mm.
"So when are you running for office? So when are you running for office? So when are you running for office?" And I was like, "Running for office?
Yeah.
I don't know about that." But after a while, I really thought about it, and I was like, you know what?
Mhm.
I can do this. This is not, out of the realm of what I can do. So
Okay.
I do plan
All
That's
on running
right.
for
super dope.
office.
Well,
You heard it here
I definitely
first.
got your back, and I'm sure Greg gonna have your back too. We got
Oh, you got my vote. You got
Thank
my
you.
vote.
I
No
can't,
doubt.
I can't wait. I'm
Oh,
gonna shout
thank
your
you,
name out,
dear.
to the mountaintops for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing
Thank
we
you.
need more people like you running because, quite honestly, um, you I know quite a few people that's in the like political spaces, and I don't consider I'm not really in that crowd or whatever, but you know I've been around it enough to see
Mhm.
that there's a lot of people who run for office because you know they're, in my opinion, more so clout chasing. They're not really trying to serve, right? It's more like the prestige
For the
of
wrong
it, or
reasons.
they
Right.
want the power, or they just like the way that
Hmm.
they get the attention, things like
Right.
that. So, you know, I think we definitely need more
Hmm.
people like you. Now, what's been your experience with that? Do you see that as well?
Oh, absolutely. The one thing I never want to disillusion people because about politics is that you can really from your heart want to make change. I think that like especially us that like started like
Mm,
voting in the Obama age, we think that politics has
yeah.
always looked like that, like hope, like change. Like that's not the undercurrent of what
Hmm.
politics is about power. And it's about but the reality is I don't want people to fear power. I think that if the right people get into the room,
Right.
then things will change for the better. But don't ever misconstrue it as if there's not always going to be that element
Oh
of
yeah.
people pursuing power, right? You
Oh
just
yeah.
have to understand why you're in the room. Um, as opposed to being upset because everybody
Hmm.
else is not on the
That's
same
good.
wave as
That's
you.
good.
So, I've had, a couple of my friends ran for office and we had private conversations. And I remember telling them,
Hmm.
they were not, they were white women. And I was like, I need you to understand because they was upset. It was like, and this person did this and this person did that, and I can't believe, like moving through the room, you can get a little disillusioned, you can get a little, jaded. But
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
why
Hmm.
are you there though? You know what I mean? Like, who are
That's good.
you in the room to advocate for? Think about that as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
who's slimy. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of like an element. And I feel like it's changing,
Hmm.
but it's not gonna change overnight. And you're still gonna have those people who, you
Yeah.
know, it's appealing. Why do
Oh
you want
yeah.
to be a CEO? Why do you want to be, a millionaire? All of that,
Hmm.
like it's about power and control. So you have to really kind of
Yeah.
ground yourself. I think that's really important. Having people around you that will ground you and let you know, like, listen, there's more,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
you
Right.
ain't all that basically, and there's more to what you're doing than ingratiating
Yeah.
yourself to
Yeah.
like
That's good,
attention.
man.
So
What I took especially from that is like what you said, right? Stay grounded because
Hmm.
it's easy to get distracted by things that it doesn't really matter. So you can get pulled in one direction or in another direction, just because you see someone that isn't on the same necessarily wavelength that you are.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think just being focused on the your goal and what you bring to the table
Oh,
and what you're trying to do as far as make change and keeping that in the forefront of your mind is probably the biggest key. So I can't imagine what that's like, but I think you bring up a great point with that. So
oh yeah, yeah, and that that was a bar. Like just knowing why you in the room, right? I think you can apply that to
hmm
so many different things. You can apply that to really anything. So not so much worrying about what everybody else doing, but what are you doing? Why are you here? What's your purpose, kind of thing, right?
every day, every day.
Yeah, it's super dope.
Hmm
So Tamisha,
for sure.
you dove, like I said, you kind of went straight into the big leagues, and you've been in this game for a little while now, for a few years. So, what advice would you give, the next young lady coming up or young man coming up who wants to work on political campaigns or work in this political space? What kind of advice would you give them, like how to start, where to go, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely. So, when I think about, a lot of these campaigns, we wind
Mm,
up going to high schools and going into the community. So my first thing I would
okay.
tell you is to
Okay.
volunteer.
Mhm.
Get yourself in the door. Be an intern, do what you got to do to kind of get yourself in the door. But once you're in the
Mhm.
door, you show up with excellence so that people
Right.
notice how you show up. And then, don't be afraid to ask for like
Mm,
recommendation. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm about to graduate, are there any opportunities? um, One of the great things about Ossoff's campaign is we are hiring like almost
mm,
like 3,000 people or something crazy all over Georgia. Some people who've never been involved in politics. So when I'm talking to young people, and I get a lot of young people that I interview, and I'm telling them, like, they're like, I've always wanted to be involved in politics, but I never knew how to.
yeah.
I said the
Hmm.
first thing you need to do is ask, and get your foot in the door. But like I said, when you get there, you got to stay,
Yeah.
you don't
Right.
have to get ready if you
Right.
stay ready,
Facts.
right? One of my coworkers saw Kamala in the
Mm,
gym of the hotel, and she was in
Putting
the
in
gym. It
work.
was early in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, who want to be,
yeah.
who want to be bothered at that hour? And she was like, "Hi, my name is," and she's like, "I got
Oh
my
wow.
resume," and she had it in her
Dang.
bag and handed it to her. Like, stay
No, that's good.
ready,
Yeah.
okay? You might not have to,
Hmm.
yeah, but like, seriously,
Mm,
and reach out to somebody that you trust, once you get in the door. And I'm just, this is not really for the young people. This is kind of for our generation.
all
Make
right.
sure
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah,
helping the next generation.
Yeah.
that's
Don't
good.
hoard your opportunity, because they there's no way that any of us would get where
Oh
we
yeah.
are if
Right.
nobody was
Right.
willing to help us. So, like, make sure that you make that time. That they ask for a letter of recommendation, I'm the
Mm,
queen of like what you need me to do,
yeah. Yeah.
because I want to see you successful. So, yeah, just don't be afraid to ask for help, and to make sure
Man,
that
that's
you
good. That's
get your
good.
foot in
That's
the door.
great. That's great info.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, is it do you find it to be pretty competitive in that space? Like, is it kind of cutthroat in those offices for people competing for these spots? So how is
um
it?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's not
Yeah.
necessarily like House of Cards or anything. It's not, but there is an aspect. I think, like, I want to say in the last like maybe 2 3 years, there has been an influx of like diversity within
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
political like landscape that just wasn't there anymore. That before, rather, and like structurally, it's still
Mm,
like a
yeah.
boys' game,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Okay.
mostly white male. So you gotta
Hmm.
kind of, straighten your shoulders a little bit, and kind of know that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
somebody's
Right.
always
Right.
coming for your neck. Like, somebody wants your job, somebody wants your
Yeah.
opportunity, somebody want to knock you off your square. Like, you have to be aware. I don't want to scare
Oh yeah.
nobody, because I mean, we're all just people. But at the end of the day, I want people to be aware that, like, it can be very competitive, especially for a person of color, and also a woman in this space. It can get a little
No.
nasty. So you just gotta,
Hmm.
like I said, you gotta remember why you're there. Because if you allow them to scare you out of room, then
Yeah.
Right.
then what? Now who's gonna, whatever you there for, whatever your why is, the moment you let them scare you off, all of
Right.
those
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
I
don't benefit. You know what I mean? And that's
yeah.
what I carry on my back. Like, you don't
I
scare
like
me.
Yeah.
that.
That's
I
I
got
good.
no
like that a
issues.
lot.
That's
So,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's real good stuff. So yeah, man. Remember your why. You can't let them win, because then they get to inject their agendas, rather than what you came there for, right? Yeah, man. So before we go into this last segment here, just tell us a little bit more about Ossoff's campaign in Georgia. What are y'all doing there? When is the election? How can we support?
absolutely. So, if you're not a Georgian, you can support by donating and also volunteering. Every single person has to get touched. We have to
Mhm.
have some kind of way to get to them, so that they know that the runoff, because runoffs, really, we've had runoffs in South Carolina. They're
Right.
not very well attended. Like, people don't
Yeah.
go to runoffs. They're like, I voted already, so what's the deal? And so it's January the 5th.
Okay.
Early voting has already started in Georgia. For those that are, interested in helping the Ossoff campaign, you can go to his website and text to go to join OSOF, and that's where the application is to actually
Okay.
apply to be one of the mobilizers. So, like I said, we're hiring thousands of people. You don't have to have political experience, but this is a super important election because of the fact that there are two spots that could
Mm-hmm.
flip the Senate to the Democratic side. So when we're talking about COVID relief, we're talking about legalization of
Mm-hmm.
marijuana, decriminalization of marijuana, and
Right.
even in states like South Carolina. When we're talking about like more the expansion of Medicaid, we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
more people having health insurance. All of that depends on who's in the Senate
Right.
so
Mm-hmm.
that those things can get passed. So people put a lot of pressure on the president. The president has to work
Yeah.
in
Right.
tandem to Congress and the Senate. So you can write a fabulous bill. There's hundreds of bills that have been
Mm-hmm.
passed by the House of Representatives that are sitting on the desk of the majority leader, which is Mitch McConnell. He no longer becomes the majority if we get John Ossoff and Reverend
Mm-hmm.
Raphael Warnock elected. So we have a lot of work to
Yeah.
do, and there's a lot of pressure on Georgia. But I feel like they're up for the task because they were able to turn their state blue for the first time since like I
Wow.
want to say the
Yeah. Yeah.
1970s or something crazy. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
really intense because it's so much pressure, but you think about what you can change, man. Like when I think about the fact that like when I was just out here in these streets just talking about Kamala and like she could be the next president and rah rah and stuff, and then like
Yeah.
realizing like nah,
Right.
she just
Right.
changed history. Like you wanted it and you felt it, but now it's here. And so when you have that like hope of things unseen, like that's what this
Yeah.
election really represents. Like we can really change stuff
Yeah.
for a long
Absolutely.
time in this country
Yeah.
if we can
Yeah.
get these
Absolutely.
young men
Absolutely.
elected.
Definitely. And no matter I just want to lead this for the audience, no matter how you feel about Kamala Harris and some other people, that look like us in these that's running for office and things like that, you know, them being in those positions are important because of the appearance, right? The representation. Um,
Representation matters.
it matters. So, and
Absolutely.
our last
It
guest
really
that we
does.
interviewed, he said that you are what you see, basically, right? So when you see
Hmm.
people doing certain things, you start to believe that you can do it too. And if you don't see that, then your
Absolutely.
options, what you feel like your options for you become limited, right?
Right.
So
Right.
our boy Jeff, he said, he joined the military because his two older brothers joined the military, right? So, if somebody looks up
Right.
to
Hmm.
Kamala, if somebody looks up to, Barack Obama, they see them in those positions, they can say, you know what, I know I can do this because they did it. So it's super
Right.
important.
That's
Right.
a great point,
Facts.
Cam. To kind of just to reiterate that, man, and piggyback off of that, and back to your point, Tamisha, like what I took from what you said previously about like staying in the South because you're from Brooklyn. Like I think it's important because you're kind of drawn here because you want to be that voice and you want to be that person that people see because they know like, okay, well, if she's doing it, I can do it. There's that
Absolutely.
inspiration, there's that motivation. You know what I mean? And back
Yeah.
to what you were saying, Cam, it's just like you need to have those people that you can see that are making that have a passion for change
Yeah.
in positions of power in certain positions so that you can be motivated and be inspired.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's that, you hit the
Absolutely.
nail on the head with that one for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, you gave us a lot of stuff here, Tamisha. I appreciate it. So before we wrap this up, I want to go into our
Right.
next segment. We call this our Fab Five. So these are just five fun questions that we want to ask you, and we ask all our guests
Okay.
here. So I'll let Greg start it off.
Yeah. So first question, what are you currently binge watching on Netflix, if anything? No, wait,
Oh, my binge
really?
watching isn't on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah. So I love this
Mhm.
show. I think it's on NBC
Mm,
called A Million Little Things. It's like a compilation show. Some people
okay.
compare it to This Is Us. I think it's different. But I really love that show. And I'm like a classic. I'll pound through like 20 episodes of Law and
So
Order. I
is
love
it like the
Law and
original Law
Order.
and Order or SVU? Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay,
okay,
okay.
okay.
The
I
OG.
I'm
don't
an
know too many
SVU
people.
person
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, I'm
Yes.
SPU all day.
Yeah, a lot of people are like hard down SVU, fans, and they have a really dope cult
Yeah.
following that I really enjoy. But just a little like FYI, the reason why I love watching the original
Okay.
is because
Okay,
it was
okay.
actually filmed in New York. So like all of those scenes are
Yeah.
like not fake, like they're really on the streets of New York, and like kind of
Okay.
gives me
Yeah.
like
Right, I
nostalgia. Like
got
I
you.
know where
That
that
makes
is. I
sense.
know where
That
Yeah.
that
makes
is. I
sense.
know where
Yeah.
that is.
Okay.
Kind
It's
of
dope.
stuff.
It's
So
dope.
yeah.
All right. Question number two. What is something new that you've learned to cook during this pandemic?
Oh, so much pasta. You would think that I was Italian. I made a chicken
Mm,
Florentine,
Yeah.
which is
okay.
basically spinach and Alfredo and Parmesan, different things. I've also been
Mhm.
like really into like Asian style food. So there's like fancy ramen with
Oh yeah.
like
Oh, that's my
spicy
favorite.
noodles and stuff like that. It's yeah. So all that comfort food, anything with a noodle in
That's
it, I'm
Word.
what's up.
fine.
That's what's up. So question number 3. What book are you currently reading?
I wish I had time to read. I
Oh yeah,
don't.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
right
for
now, if
sure.
I'm being honest. I definitely am gonna. I'm gonna pick
Okay.
up Barack's new autobiography. I
Mm,
I always go back to Becoming. Love Michelle. Another book. I can't. I'm so sorry. I can't remember this
okay.
author. Her book
Okay.
is called Lean In. Um, which
Mm,
is about women in power and really just kind of like leaning into their roles. So those are the like top three that I go back to. And also like I love like plants and stuff and like learning
mm,
like about like different
okay.
herbs and stuff
Okay.
like that.
All
I'm
right.
that
All
kind
right.
of
Nice.
person.
Nice.
So yeah.
Cool. Question number 4. What was the last song you listened to?
Well, right before I got on here, I was listening to
Okay.
Childish
Okay.
Dope
Gambino, Feels
song.
Like Summer.
Yeah.
I rock with Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
Shout
What
out
was
to
what was the
Yeah.
I can't remember the album before, but that was my favorite with like Sweatpants and World Star on it.
him. Yeah.
Y'all remember?
Because the internet. Yeah.
Oh
Because the
man,
internet.
like so you a fan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Cause
it's
that
2013.
one's a
it's one
throwback.
of my favorites though,
Yeah.
But I mean, he's dope, man.
Yeah.
He's like I would consider him like a newer version of Jamie Foxx
Mm,
because he's like that Renaissance man. He can
yeah.
sing, he can
He's definitely a
act. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
renaissance
saying?
man.
He's a comedian. He's funny.
Yeah.
Like he can do it all, and he can do it well. You know, some
That's
people like
facts.
literally try to go in
Yeah.
and do all of those things, but it's kind of mediocre. But
Yeah.
he's literally like great at
Hmm.
them all, like just like Jamie Foxx is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
He's
And
excellent.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it just I'm gonna do a little plug here. We ain't get no sponsorship for this, but I'm gonna shout out another podcast. It's really dope because we mentioned that there's a podcast called Dissect, and you can listen to it on Spotify. But they break
Okay.
down, and the reason I thought about it is because they're actually he's actually doing a breakdown of Because the Internet now, like it was the last season. So
okay,
basically
okay.
what he does is like this guy, he breaks down um a whole album. So he goes like song by song and he breaks it down from like the lyrical
Oh wow.
content, like what everything means, like to the beat, how everything the musicality of it, like how
Yeah, the
everything
Yeah, that's
musicality
super
of
comes
dope.
it. That's
together.
dope.
And like, I mean, it's super dope, like how he does it. And you could tell he put a lot of time into it and a lot of work. So, I mean, I binged it.
Yeah.
I discovered this podcast like earlier this year and I binged it. It's like season 7, but he's done like 2 of Kanye's albums. He did Lemonade, Beyonce's album, and now he's doing Because then he's also did Tyler the Creator's album. So
Nice.
yeah, it's a dope podcast. Like it'll get you hooked when you start like hearing some of the breakdowns he talk about. Well, he did 2 of Kendrick Lamar's albums, and just the lyrical content when you break it down, you'll be like, whoa, I didn't even catch that, you know? So
Yo,
That sounds right up my alley. I'm a music lover. Like my father was a musician. He was actually
okay.
what I consider
that's
a
what's up.
Renaissance man as well. He played the guitar. He played the guitar, the keyboard, the piano, the drums, the saxophone, and I
Oh
think
wow.
yeah, and the bass guitar. And it wasn't until
Yeah.
later on in life I realized that that's not normal. That
Yeah.
everybody's
Right,
daddy
right.
doesn't do that, you know. And so, like from
Yeah.
little, I've been exposed to great music, man. So that sounds like
Oh yeah.
right up my alley.
That's
Oh
what's
yeah,
So
up.
for
thank
sure.
you for that. I will
So,
definitely check that out.
last question. Would you rock with Sephora or Ulta?
Now you know. They both get my
Word.
coins. But I would probably say Sephora because
Mm,
of they have more
Okay.
high end brands in Sephora. So I'm a big Fenty fan, and I think Fenty and Sephora have
okay.
like a partnership. So most of
Okay.
Brianna's stuff goes
All
straight
right,
to
that's
Yeah,
what's
we
up.
know you
Sephora.
wasn't ready for
So
that one.
yeah.
That's why we left that at the end.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yay, look at them. Because, Cam would probably tell
Hmm.
you I love beauty and all
Oh
Word,
that
yeah,
word.
yeah,
makeup
for sure.
stuff and all that stuff. So
For
yeah,
sure.
those are cool.
All right,
Cool.
now we're gonna get ready to wrap this up. But Tamisha, just leave us. We get us all, to all our guests. Just want to give you a moment to leave us with a final gem. Like, what's one thing that you've learned and or would like to leave with our audience and the world that could help change the course of somebody's life? What's that final gem that you would like to drop for us?
Absolutely. So this has been a hard year for everybody. I think that sometimes we kind of forget
Hmm.
how hard it can be for others. It's the holiday season and all of that. And so I want to tell someone if like you're feeling discouraged, if you feel like, you can't do something, I promise you that the capacity of your greatness is so, so beyond the scope of what you ever thought you could do, and that you are valuable and that you are loved, and that there's a purpose that you have. And I think that people need to kind of have that moment
Hmm.
of like really having somebody else affirm that for them. So if
I
I
love
had
it.
anything to
That's
say,
dope.
it's that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, hey, Tamisha, appreciate you coming on the podcast. I mean, it's been a pleasure. You dropped a lot of gems for us, and you gave us a lot of good
Thank you.
information. And I hope that somebody listening really gets um, this, and especially as somebody that's aspiring to work in politics and kind of do their thing. Hopefully they learn something and can take this and do something with it, moving forward. And everybody that's listening, just remember there's work to do out here. So if you get into this work, be ready to serve the people and not be clout chasing.
Facts. Facts.
Facts
And yeah, I
only.
mean, and here at the City of Savages, man, one thing we do pride ourselves on is giving our flowers to our guests that we have on,
Yeah,
and giving our kudos. So just thank you for everything that you're doing, Tamisha, seriously. And continue to press on for everyone, our folks and our people, but just everyone in general. So we appreciate that. And I for one appreciate the transparency, because
absolutely.
you definitely did tell us the great things that are occurring, but also the competition, the level of competition, and
Mhm.
the certain things that you do need to be aware of, not to scare anyone off, but being real and just being genuine, and telling, hey, just be prepared for this.
Yeah,
Don't come in slacking.
yeah,
Don't come in half-ass. And I believe that plenty of people out there can appreciate that, if they are going into politics or going to chase something in that realm,
hmm,
for sure. So, and I think that definitely is a good gem to take back. Not to be timid, be confident in who you are and what you bring
absolutely.
to the table, and not running scared. For anyone that's trying to move you out of your position. So,
Yeah,
hats off to you, and thank you very much for being on with
absolutely.
us today.
For sure. Now, before you get off here, tell the people how can they reach out to you. What's your socials and all that stuff.
Awesome. So I'm pretty simple. My Facebook is probably the easiest way to get to me. It's my name, Timiciagrant. And my Insta is ms_grant864. My Twitter is just my name, Timiciagrant. So anybody who wants to follow me, learn more about this election, definitely hit me up. And I'm ready for us to be able to
Oh,
make
you're
this
welcome.
change.
Absolutely.
So
I actually
thank you
followed you
guys so much.
like the other
Yes,
day. So yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
that. I saw that. I was like, oh look. I was like, I wonder if they're like just like, is she? What does she be talking? What's she talking about? But no, a lot of my
Yeah.
posts are about what's
Yeah,
going
that's what's
on
up.
and try to
So
keep
yeah,
people abreast.
everybody go follow Tamisha. And if you in Georgia, go vote January 5th, right?
January 5th, but if you
Oh
really
yeah,
want to
do it
like make
early.
me happy, go ahead
Yeah.
and vote early. Please go vote early.
Go right
Early
now.
voting has started. It
Yeah.
started on
Facts.
Monday. So,
Facts.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Go in the
for sure.
morning.
Well, hey, Tamisha,
Yes.
again, we appreciate
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
And hey, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead and wrap it up for us, Greg.
All right, man. As always, you are listening to the City of Savages podcast.
Yo, y'all take it easy. We out.